Welcome. I'm Carl Frederick, and I will be interviewing individuals for Kenosha Voices, an oral history project of the Kenosha County Historical Society in conjunction with Kenosha Community Media. I have worked in newspapers for more than 40 years as an editor and a reporter. 38 and a half of those years were at the Kenosha News. I am also a member of the Kenosha County Historical Society Board. We hope you enjoy these programs. I'm speaking with James Hall, president of the Urban League of Racine and Kenosha. Welcome.
Thank you.
When did you get your start working with the Urban League?
I took over the Urban League in May of 2019.
Okay. And what did you do?
Prior to the Urban League?
No. What did you do at the Urban League when you first started there?
No, I was moved directly into the executive director spot, which is what we call executive directors, but it's president and CEO. The board asked me to come on board and take upon this position to help it, and I took it over naively in 2019.
Okay, and then where had you been before that?
Well, I come from corporate America. The very last job I had was with WIBIC, Wisconsin Women Business Initiative Corporation, which is a not-for-profit organization based out of Milwaukee. Prior to that, I was with Northern Trust, and prior to that, I was at Allstate.
Okay. So, do you have a background in community service?
No, my background is, that's what's the funny part about it. I have no background in community service, and I took upon this role because I saw challenges in the community. And I figured that if no one would step up, I could step up and fill some of the voids based on my experience. I was coached football for years, so that's connected to the community, but I didn't coach here in Kenosha. I coached in Chicago, and I coached at one of the worst public high schools in Chicago, which was a school in Inglewood. It's now closed down, and they changed it. But yeah, I figured that I could connect to the people that needed the most help because I had a background in working with challenged children at one point.
Okay, and was there an interview process, or did they, when you contacted them, they contacted you? How did that?
As far as the Urban League, the process went, no, I didn't contact them. So how I moved to Kenosha, in 2008. And at that point in time, I joined the Urban League board back in 2010 to help it out. And I sat on the board from 2010 to 2012. And then I took a job at WIBIC, and that they pretty much asked me not to be on any other, don't commit to any other nonprofit organizations, so on and so forth. The process was the chairperson contacted me and asked me would I be a part of the Urban League because they liked the work that I was doing as a board member. And I was like, nah, I'm not interested. And she asked me a few other times, and I said yes. And I took it over, and here I am today.
Okay, are there any type of special skills you have had to learn being the president of the local Urban League?
So my background is I have an undergrad in finance, and I have an MBA, and then I got another master's degree in human services. So just connecting to people is key here. But this Urban League is different because you have two cities. You have Racine and you have Kenosha. And both the cities have similar issues, similar problems, but they govern different, and they have the people different. The people, the way they go about their business is different. So one of the things I had to learn on the job is learning how to communicate with both cities, but differently, because the way Racine is governed is different from the way Kenosha is governed.
Okay, well, we'll get more to the differences, I hope. What is the history of the organization?
The Urban League was created in 1964, and it initially started in Racine by Miss Thelma Orr. She was a legend in the community. She started many different organizations, and she founded the Urban League. She initially attracted the Urban League to Racine to actually combat some of the issues that was going on in the 60s. And she took upon that task to fight a lot of injustice. So initially, the role with the Urban League was, a civic engagement type of role, and social advocacy to promote jobs, allow people to begin to vote, and give blacks and brown people more access to government services.
Okay. When was the national organization founded?
The National Urban League is 101 years old. So they were founded, we're talking about 1911. It was 1911 when the National Urban League. So we're talking about, it was shortly after NAACP.
Okay.
And so they've been through several leaderships. The most famous leader that you may know of the National Urban League is Mr. Whitney Young. Mr. Whitney Young was the first leader to really transcend the Urban League to the next level, which was one of the things he was famous about. He got up 40,000 people. Prior to him, no black folks were working in corporate America. So he cut a deal with corporate America to get about 40,000 people to work in the corporate America in New York. And so that began to open up the floodgates for black and brown people to work in corporate structures throughout the country.
Okay, so that's been its goal from the beginning?
That's the goal from this beginning. The Urban League is an opportunity organization. It's not, we don't look for entitlement programs. It's an organization that like to provide opportunity to low to moderate income individuals.
Okay. And why did the Urban League form if the NAACP was already in existence? Was there a different approach? Was there different goals, different purposes?
So social advocacy is what the Urban League kind of focuses on, providing opportunity. The NAACP, they're more social justice. They go after the issues in courtrooms, in the community, so on and so forth, but they don't really focus on providing opportunities. They don't provide opportunities. Well, I can't say they don't provide opportunities. Well, that's not their focus. Their focus is dealing with criminal justice, what we call I'm lost for words.
Yeah. Social issues as opposed to issues of jobs and advancement and education.
Correct. Okay. So they take up on the issues like with discrimination issues. That's what I was looking for. They focus on more of discrimination and social justice issues, trying to bring equality to those issues. Well, the Urban League was the organization say, let's focus on the opportunities. Let's provide black and brown folks opportunities and get them moving forward with better jobs, better quality housing, better lifestyles. The Urban League is more so to improve lifestyles.
Okay. And how is it funded?
The Urban League is funded several ways: private donations, through memberships. We have membership base, donations, grants, and regular endowment funds.
Okay. And what kind of staff does the Urban League have in Racine and Kenosha?
So since I took it over in 2019 and then we went through COVID, it's a staff of 3 now, which the Urban League in its heyday had up to staff at 20 in Racine. But right now we really on a real thin budget since COVID. So it's just 3 of us right now.
So it's just a function of finding people and then expanding, or
yes,
something else?
Yeah, so because the needs are different now, it's not the same needs that we had, say, 30 years ago. And with technology, you can cut a lot of that extra stuff out, But so right now, the needs are we need individuals that have a special skill set, meaning they know how to connect to people. And for whatever reason, in today's society, there's not a lot of people that know how to connect to low to moderate income individuals. Sometimes people, they look down upon people that don't have similar resources that they have, and they take it sometimes it may be a rude approach. And so you got to be really selective when you're bringing people in, because you never know what a person's going through when they come through your doors. And you got to be equipped to handle them mentally, socially, whatever their need is. And we don't want to make the mistake, because sometimes we're dealing with a lot of people with a lot of traumatic experiences from the neighborhood. And a lot of people just walk in off the streets, or they're going through something, whether they need rent money, or they're having housing issues, or they're struggling in some fashion. And if you don't have the right approach, when people come into the office, you don't want to cause a chain reaction to be bad, if you get what I'm saying.
All right, so can you kind of describe kind of an interaction that you would have with someone coming into the office? Kind of an example of what you might see when a person walks in?
Typically, a person is looking for service, looking for something, looking for help. Most of the people that come into the urban league, they need help, either looking for something for their children, a program for their child, or they're looking for a program for themselves. So, for example, just a few weeks ago, we had a gentleman, I want to say, and his fiance, I think that's what he called her, they came into the office and they needed shelter. And we don't provide shelter for individuals, but we do as a hub. So we connect them to the Shalom Center. However, after his fiance was able to get shelter, but he was not able to get shelter. And for whatever reason, his background, they didn't allow him to get shelter. He didn't give us a clear notion, but sometimes those problems are what it is. So when he came back over, he thought they were just slighting him because he had a felony background. He just assumed. So he's all emotional. Well, I don't have a place to stay. I don't have anywhere to go. Kind of out of control, And so I had explained to him, no, that's what the problem. The problem is they just didn't have a bed for you, But sometimes when people are going through different experiences, they don't always hear what someone is communicating to them. They just feel that they've been slighted for whatever reason. So that's kind of typical. What we get through come through the doors, or we have a child come through the door, and the child we had a homeless child. Well, she's technically not homeless anymore. She's in transitional housing now. 17 years old, pregnant, and didn't know how to communicate to her parents that she's pregnant, so on and so forth. And she had ran away, and so she came through the door seeking help, and she was hungry. So we got some services for her. I actually have a board member that's a nurse practitioner that came over and actually took her in her home and counseled her through the whole process. And so those are the type of things we kind of do with Urban League. We try to provide those opportunities to help people immediately. We try not to turn anyone away.
Okay, about how many people do you see coming into the office on a regular month or year? Or do you keep any kind of data?
Yeah, so data monthly, it fluctuates depending on what's happening in society, depending on what's going on during that period, during that season. But typically we average during a month, probably 20 to 40 people a month that may come through the building, asking for services to help or call us. And that's kind of light. Because if we can't help, we're trying to direct them in the right place. So yearly wise, it depends on the events, because we do large events too. We have an event that's coming up on September 9th, which is a expo. And so we bring all the nonprofit organizations and all the small businesses together and bring them out in the community. And so at those places, we give them backpacks, we give them services. They get to meet new industries. They get to meet different people that can provide services to them that's outside of the urban league. And so when we do those large events, we may have 2,000 to 3,000 people at that one event. So when we don't get the foot traffic to come in, we actually go out and engage the community. We've had civic engagement, voter registration drives. We do that every single year. And typically when we have those events, we get 200 to 300 people to pass through on average when we do those events like that.
Okay. Do you ever coordinate with, work alongside the NAACP or LULAC, or do you?
Yes, we worked with LULAC during the COVID. Mm-hmm. We had a joint COVID testing center there that we had at our building, and LULAC was a part of that with us. So we came together, and because we don't have a lot of Spanish speaking people at the Urban League, so to bring it together, we had LULAC that covered the Spanish speaking people, and then we had our team covering the other team. And so we work jointly together with them. We work together in NAACP with the voter registration drive. We partner with a lot of different organizations. We partner with the ARC Foundation. It's called the ARC of Racine. That's what it's called.
Okay. So I think you mentioned kind of being a hub. So while you don't find people a job, you don't train people for a job.
No, we do.
You do train. Okay.
So that's one of the things that we don't talk about a lot. We have a job training program.
Okay.
So in the past, we partnered with various companies that's local. I don't want to advertise one in particular,
sure.
But we do local companies. And so we train them in for 6 to 8 weeks. And then we give them the soft skills that they need. We train them up how they should approach the work, day-to-day work. Because unfortunately, you would assume that those skills are afforded to them by the time they get out of high school. But a lot of the young kids don't have those skills getting right out of high school. So we have to prepare them and offer them soft skills. We partner with UMOS, as a nonprofit organization. We partner with a few different organizations. I don't have them all off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm.
WIOLA is one of the organizations that we partner with and help train some of the employees so they can be office ready in some professions. So, for example, the contract that the relationship that we have with WIOLA, we train the people they send over to us to be professional, work in the office environment. And, that typically we have them for about 6 months to a year.
So do you train them in your office? Do you work with Gateway or some other group to provide the space and the equipment for training?
No, we train them directly in the office.
Directly in the office?
We have laptops for them. We take them through various simulations. But then they're shadow, either myself or one of the other two individuals is there. And so when they see those real-time things that come through, the real-time people come through the door, and the different experiences they see, sometimes they're amazed because they don't understand. They're so young in most cases. They don't understand that people have these problems. They have real-time, real-world problems. And so it's shocking to them. But what happens is it forces them to motivate themselves to be a better individual, to be a better person, because sometimes they don't take life serious.
Why do you think that people who come to see you didn't learn those skills in high school?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, so what I believe now, the skills, so a lot of the skills that you should learn in high school, I don't think the current high school structure has enough space to teach it. Meaning they're more focused on the biology, the chemistry. They're more focused on getting kids prepared for college, not necessarily getting kids prepared to work an everyday, 9-to-5 job or prepared to work at all. I think the high school should play a better role in that because not everybody's college bound. And so they need to refocus that. But right now in the current structure, I don't know if the high schools have the staff or the team that's prepared to train kids to be business professional. Like, with the vocation being removed, and some things like that being removed from school, I think the high school just have a different mission right now.
Okay. Are you talking then that the high schools lack the ability to do those social connections, how to work with other people, how to take your day seriously, how to know how to act in circumstances that wouldn't necessarily be part of a high school curriculum, but those things that when you get a training in a job and you show up for work, the things one should know when they have a job: showing up on time, knowing how to interact with coworkers, your boss. Are those the kind of things you're talking about?
Yes, and I'm saying in the current high school environment, and I think we all should visit a high school from time to time, or middle school. Because the discipline structure has changed over the years, and there's not not a lot of emphasis on discipline and respect today in the school system, that they lost all of those connectors, so to speak. And because they lost those connectors, because there's really no curriculum that teaches that, it's just a part of your day-to-day behavior. You know, getting to class on time. If you get to class on time, typically you get to work on time. But the school structure has changed so dramatically over the last, say, 20 years that they don't focus on any discipline. They focus on social emotional intelligence, the kid being mentally well. And that's a good thing, but we also tipped the hand to we losing the discipline side of things. We're losing the focus about being responsible and having integrity. And so because we can't really teach that, but that's not a part of the everyday curriculum anymore, the schools are kind of relaxed. They're too relaxed, in my opinion. Okay. So because they're so relaxed now, and even the dress code, I mean, how the students dress at school is so relaxed, they think they can dress that way when they approach someone's job, and that's just not able. So many, years ago, the school was always reinforcing real life, but real life is not being reinforced anymore in schools.
Do you think that's just the nature of how many students they're dealing with on a regular basis and how different all these students are to try to come up with a commonality on how to get that done?
No, I think that in order for that to really happen, is they have to focus on discipline again. You have to put some form of discipline in schools, and then we have to get the parents to buy in that structure again. Right now, there's no discipline anywhere, so everything is loose everywhere. Okay. And that's why it's a challenge to get to some of these solid corporations that require you to dress a certain way, because they refuse. The kids feel, I'm gonna do what I want to do, and they don't understand that's just not how life operates.
Is there some kind of discipline required in your job training?
So we take the kids as they are, and I have what is called we're a certified professional education organization. So we have curriculums for how people should be, from accounting all the way down to how they should behave. So what I do with all the younger individuals that come to the program, they go through a certified youth professional development. And it's a physical course where they take the course online or in person. It just depends on, what agencies, how they're going to cover the cost of it. Or we offer it free to those individuals that come from high schools. But that's a big expense that we can't cover all the time. It just depends on what grant is available. And so once they go through that, then once they clear and get the certificate for that, then we take them through the day-to-day, the everyday soft skills. They would have read it, they would have saw examples of it. Now what they've seen, heard, now we want you to act out what you've seen. So we take them through that process. We require them not necessarily or attire for work, but they just can't wear anything. Monday to Thursday they should be dressed in professional attire. And Friday we have a relaxed day for they can wear jeans and t-shirt.
Okay, and how many people do you have going through the training programs during the course of a year?
So this will be the second year. So last year we had 13 successful kids go through it between the ages of 14 and 18, and this year we hope to expand that. One of the things we want to do is partner with the school districts to offer it in the schools, so this will be a part of their day-to-day. It's 9 cohorts, and we would love to have the school district say, hey, let's work together and make this happen.
So are you asking the school district for staff, for resources, for space, for equipment? What are you asking the school?
No, I'm asking the school district to allow us to offer the course either during school hours or after school hours, so these kids can take advantage of this resource. And we'll teach the course.
You just want the space in the school to do it.
Well, I want the school district to acknowledge it so they can share it amongst not necessarily the official curriculum, but for example, in their small groups that they have groups like AAYA, they may have different organizations, and they can enroll in those programs so the high school kids can understand what is expected of them. Because right now they have no expectations. And sometimes you gotta, if the school district acknowledge the program and then send them to us, or however we can work that deal out. Sometimes things have to be done outside of the schools for them kids to really understand that there's something different. Because if we stay in that same school structure setting, they're gonna behave the same way. So we don't want that riffraff kind of behavior. We gotta take them out of that environment and modify the behavior. Because what it is to be our certified business coaches just working to modify the behavior. That's the key. We just modify the behavior.
Do you have an anti-gang component, or you can't do that? You're focusing on an individual one at a time, or?
So the gang component, that's something that urban used to have.
Okay.
However, I changed it to, because it had such a negative tone,
Okay.
to we focus on education and youth development, developing the individual. I don't see that personally. I don't see, and we're in the heart of what they used to consider the ghetto, 1418 68th Street. I don't see that there's a major gang problem per se. It's just a whole bunch of kids that's misdirected, doing what they want to do because they don't have structured households. Or even if they do have structured household, that period of time that there's no adults or people watching, they start to do what teens do, act a fool. So those are kids that we want to take, but we don't just want to just focus on the trouble kids. We want to focus on the other kids, because I don't know if you're aware, but currently today, the proficiency rate of our children across the board, in the entire KUSD district, 25% are proficient. That means 75% of them are not proficient. They're literally failing. And but the graduation rate is at 88%. That's kind of scary. 75% of the kids are not proficient, but they graduate in 4 years. I'm uncomfortable with that. So that's where I believe we can come in, help modify the behavior, and we can get those kids refocused back on the academics or themselves. Because right now, the kids are just in school, and I've been in the high schools. I have two daughters that is in the school system. One of my daughters graduated a couple of years ago. She's at Howard University now, and my other daughter's getting ready to graduate from Bradford. Every day they have a different story, because they have a structured system that they come from. But every day is something like they don't want to be in that environment because it's such undisciplined. It seems to be out of control and very chaotic at times. And sometimes in the classrooms, there's foolishness going on. Nobody have the classroom management of teachers, not like it used to be. And it's all over the place at times. And so it makes some of the kids that want to achieve, they have to be a part of the problem to fit in, so they're not, teased or bullied.
Okay. So when you have someone, now I imagine you say you work with children, you also work with adults.
Yes.
Okay. So when they have finished your training program, how do you connect them with a job? Do you have a list of employers? Do you call somebody? How do you connect them?
So with the adults, we have a list of jobs that we get directly from Kenosha County, Racine County, and Wadsworth. All the jobs is listed. And then we have private employers at the same time that we can connect with. When the adults complete the program, we give them that list, and then they typically get a certificate, and they can share that they went through this program. And then oftentimes what we did, I don't want to name any particular business, they come in and they interview them. On the backside, that sometimes it appears to be a mock interview, but it's a real interview for the adults. They don't know that. We tell them it's a mock interview.
So they're more relaxed?
Yeah, they're more relaxed. They're not uncomfortable. They're not nervous. But we took them. We trained them over weeks, so they should feel comfortable, selling themselves. With the children, we put them through a mock interview, but what we do is we ask them what industry they want to go into, and so what we're trying to create a partnership right now with Gateway to get more kids going into the vocation, because a lot of kids want to do vocation. And also we had a program where a lot of kids want to become entrepreneurs. And with a partner with another organization, we've have 65 children that started LLCs in the last 2 years. And they've done an awesome job. They still have an active LLC and businesses to this day. However, the problem is they tend not to have the funding to continue because they still learn how to run a business, manage money, so on and so forth. But it's a great experience for them. So one of the things I want to do in the future is create a business incubator for those kids, so they can they pop up businesses and they can have weeks studying them using their parents' resources or working another job and trying to be creative on the other side.
Is your funding stream fairly stable so you can develop a program such as your training and know that you're going to be able to do this looking into the future? Or is it a struggle? Is it a struggle every year to see, can we do it again?
Well, it hadn't been a struggle, but this year is grown tight. I believe, during the COVID time, it was a lot of people wanted to help, and then right after the tragedy that took place with the Kenosha riots, a lot of people wanted to help when they made large donations and sustained us over a period of time. But this is the first year. We get funding from United Way, Racine and Kenosha. We get funding from Kenosha Foundation, Racine. We got funding from a lot of different places. So we hadn't had a problem funding the projects that we wanted to do. The new problem is participation.
Participation?
The participation. Like, for example, we have what is called Urban Sports Academy. And it was totally free for the kids. It sounds like it focuses on sports, but it's not. It's about de-escalation, mental meditation, yoga. We put them in places where they learn to be a better person as young as 9 years old. The problem with that is, or the problem that we discovered, is when we get the kids buy into it and excited about it, the participation and tend to fall off because the parents don't bring them all the time. They don't bring them consistently. Same thing with our reading program. We have an urban reading program for kindergarten through 8th grade. And then to improve anything, you got to be consistent. So oftentimes what happens is the kids love the program, but the parents don't bring them consistently. Well, the kid can't bring themselves. They can't drive themselves. The kid don't have any control over that. And the parents don't recognize that, and oftentimes the parents just bring them as they see fit or when they feel like it. That's where the problem coming at.
Do you see a solution to that? Is there something that, and you're not alone, I'm sure, having difficulty with attendance being continued because they can't get there, or for some reason it's not as important on the third week for mom and dad as it was the first week?
Correct.
Is there anything that you think your organization or some other organization could do to get into that home structure?
Well, we're partnering with another organization, and we just, about 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago, we started talking about how we can improve parenting. But it's hard to teach a parent how to be the parent when they adults. That's the problem, because you're telling another adult how to become or what to be, and not everybody's going to take that, with sugar, so to speak. But the reason why we started Urban Sports Academy, because we wanted the parent to participate in de-escalation, yoga and meditation with the child. That lasts for about 2 weeks. They drop the kid off and then they disappeared, and they come back 2 hours later. It's like that's what this purpose was. And then we was also offering financial literacy classes during the same time to keep the parent somewhere near, so they getting some resources at the same time. But after they learn how to fix their credit and learn what they wanted to learn, then that was it. And then you may see the kid twice that week, you may not. But we was having it where it's 4 days a week. And so with the reading program, we offered, while the kid is in there taking the reading course, you guys can take the personal finance class at the same time. A lot of people don't like to talk about their money. They feel embarrassed. They feel shameful if they're not where they need to be in life. And instead of getting an education, they just run from it. They disengage. And so that's the problem that we discovered.
What successes can you attribute to the Urban League recently?
The biggest success the Urban League has had is all the children that have completed or came consistently through our reading program was there at least 90% of the time over the entire 10 weeks. They all leveled up one grade level in the reading scores. And it's the same structure that the KUSD used, and we can share that data. Every last child that was consistent and attended 90% of the time, they leveled up one grade level. We had several kids that jumped 3 grade levels. They just needed to know how and be consistent at it. That's one of the successes. We've grown from a small block party to a major event to downtown Kenosha that's coming up September 9th. So we started out as a small voter registration block party type thing, resource table to an expo in a 3-year period. So we started out with maybe a couple hundred people, and the city of Racine is projecting maybe 3,000 people to show up on September 9th.
So is it fair to say by your name that the Urban League caters to any adult, any child who lives in an urban setting? I mean, maybe an overgeneralization, but more so than not, you're in communities that have a large number of possible clients.
So I'll say this: the Urban League caters to anyone that falls into what is called the low to moderate income, or at least 100% below the poverty line, at least. But we don't turn anyone away. If you need help or resources, we'll find a way to help you. Plain and simple. We help all the children. We don't turn no kid away, no matter what the case is. Teens, we don't turn them away. Adults, we because you got to take their data, whether they, what the income, so on and so forth. If their income is, $50,000 and just they single, we can't really help you because you're above the guidelines, poverty guidelines. So, but we just don't focus on, the primary focus is African Americans and Latinos in Kenosha Racine, but we help everybody. We don't turn anybody away.
Okay. And where do you see the Urban League going in the future? Maybe the near future or even further beyond that?
I'll say further beyond that. I see the Urban League, being a part of improving the housing structure here in Racine and Kenosha, the transition housing situation, because there's a huge population of teenagers that are homeless, and I've learned it over the last 3 years. I didn't know that at first, and it's a huge population. That going into transitional housing to help those individuals, and probably helping those individuals that have a lot of mental health issues. Mental health is a huge problem in both the cities of Racine and Kenosha. It's being swept under the rug. People ignore it, and that's a problem because over time it just only gets worse, and the population increases. So our future is moving more in the direction of transit housing development. Creating more programs where people can feel at home. We want to create a program similar to what they have in Madison. The Madison created what is called the Business Hub. We want to create a business hub here in Kenosha or Racine or both that caters to small businesses, but we want to add a housing component to it for those temporary housing for those individuals that are young that need temporary housing. One of the things we want to also add to the table is more affordable housing in this region. The affordable housing, which is none here, is none here. So I'm not sure how the college student that graduated from Carthage or UW Parkside or Gateway, unless they got a huge trust fund. I don't know how they're going to survive here, because the average home was almost, what, $220,000 a year? I don't know where they're going to start at that point. You know, there's not a lot of rental properties available. So we would love to be, you know, start getting in the affordable housing market to help leverage some of the housing in areas like Uptown, Brass, you know, certain surrounding areas, or even in areas in Racine as well.
Okay. I did want to go back and have you tell me a little bit about the differences in Kenosha and the differences in Racine and how they are different. You mentioned affordable housing. Is that more of a problem in one city than the other? Or
No.
both the same?
So here's the deal. Racine and Kenosha have the exact same problems: education, crime, housing. You know, the three main areas. They have the exact same problems. But they're totally governed different. Meaning, Kenosha has found a way to get the homeless individuals off the streets. We'll start with that. You know, at vast numbers. But in Racine, you may see a lot of homeless people floating around the downtown area, which you don't see here in Kenosha. When it comes down to, just say, education, the school systems are almost identical. Both districts are almost identical with their scores, the test scores. Same problems in schools, same mismanagement or classroom mismanagement in schools where the teacher's not controlling the classroom, so on and so. All the same problems are there. But the difference is, one, I'm not going to say who, one city is honest about their problem and the other city is not honest about their problem. One city recognizes a gang problem, one city don't recognize a gang problem. You follow where I'm going with that. So until both cities can just look at each other and have a real conversation, and the mayors actually have a real conversation with each other, what's going to happen is the people just going to keep floating from city to city. You know, well, if I can't get here, I'm going to go up to Racine and figure it out. Housing still is affordable housing problem in Racine. Affordable housing is a problem in Kenosha. It's just, what I will say is, Kenosha appears to have a more progressive approach, and Racine tends to have a more settled approach. But both of the cities and people are trying to solve the problem. But I think personally, if the cities communicated and the people communicate together, they can see what's working in each city, put it together, and figure out how to solve the problem. Because they have the answers, they're just not working together.
All right, thank you for talking to me today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.